The desert was quiet. Only the soft wind moved, brushing over the cold sand like a whisper. The moon hung low in the sky, big and silver, lighting up the dry rocks and broken hills. Ray walked alone, his boots crunching the sand, his eyes scanning the path ahead. He'd been fixing a broken signal tower nearby, working all day under the sun. Now he just wanted to get back to his camp. But something was wrong. The air felt heavy, like something was watching. Then he heard it. A voice, very soft, very broken. "Please, someone, help." Ray stopped. He looked around. The desert was supposed to be empty. No humans, no cities, no creatures this far out. He waited, silence, maybe he imagined it? Then the voice came again, this time closer. "Help me, please." It wasn't a human voice. It was strange, like music and pain mixed together. Ray slowly reached for the small plasma light on his belt and turned it on. The beam swept across the sand, over sharp rocks, and then something moved, behind a pile of stones. Cautiously, Ray stepped forward. "Hello," he called out. "Who's there?" No answer. He moved closer. That's when he saw her, a girl. But not human. She was lying between the rocks, her body thin and glowing faint blue. Her skin shimmered like starlight. Long silver hair covered her face. Strange glowing lines moved across her arms and legs. Her clothes were torn, almost like they had been ripped during a fight. Ray's heart pounded. He had never seen a being like her before. Her lips moved. "Please. Don't leave me." Ray crouched beside her. "Are you hurt?" Tears slipped from her glowing eyes. I have no one left." Her voice was shaking, like her body was about to collapse. Ray reached out carefully. "What happened to you?" She looked at him. For a moment, her glowing eyes stared deep into his soul. Then she said something Ray never expected to hear. "Breed with me. Please. I don't want to die alone." Ray pulled back in shock. "What?" But she wasn't joking. She was trembling now. Her voice was weak. "My kind is gone. I'm the last. If I don't bond, I will fade." He didn't understand everything, but her pain was real. Her body was cold, shaking in the wind. Ray took off his coat and gently wrapped it around her. "I'm not going to leave you. You're safe now." Her fingers touched his hand. "Others saw me." They walked away. Ray looked around the dark desert. "I didn't," he said softly. "I stayed." She smiled a little. It was a sad smile, but full of hope. Then her eyes closed. She fainted. Ray quickly checked her breathing, still alive. He lifted her in his arms. She was light as a feather. "I don't know what you are," he whispered, "but I won't let you die out here." He began walking back toward his camp, carrying the glowing girl under the pale light of the moon. But somewhere in the distance, in the darkness behind the rocks, something else moved. Watching, waiting, and the real danger had just begun. Asterisk. Ray placed her gently on the soft bed inside his small desert shelter. The lights flickered on. It wasn't much, just a metal room with a water tank, a first aid box, and a heater, but it was safe. He checked her pulse again. Still weak, but steady. The glowing girl lay still. Her silver hair spread like silk over the pillow. Her skin was no longer blue. It had become pale white, almost colorless. Like a dying fire. Ray sat beside her, confused. She wasn't human. That was clear. But her pain, her fear, that felt the same as any living being. He didn't know her name. Didn't know what she meant by bond or breed. All he knew was she was terrified and completely alone. Then her eyes opened. Slowly. She blinked, confused at first, and then sat up suddenly. Her body glowed faintly again. "You stayed," she whispered. Ray nodded. "I did. You passed out. You're safe now." She looked around the room. Her hands grabbed the edges of the blanket, like she was still afraid he would kick her out. "Others saw me," she said quietly. They ran, or called hunters. Ray frowned. Hunters? She nodded. They want the last of my kind ... as a trophy. He sat down across from her. What are you? What happened to your people? She looked at him with deep, sad eyes. We're peaceful. We lived in light and grew life from our hands. But others hated our gifts. They said we were unnatural. We were hunted, burned, sold. Ray clenched his jaw. The girl continued. I ran, I hid, but our kind, we fade if we don't bond. My body is breaking. Ray didn't fully understand, but he felt the truth in her voice. Her sadness was sharp, like glass. I don't even know your name, he said softly. She looked at him. Zara. Zara, Ray repeated, the name strange on his tongue but beautiful. She nodded slowly. You are human? Yes. You didn't walk away, she whispered again. Why? Ray didn't have an easy answer. I just couldn't leave someone crying in the dark. For a moment, Zara's glow grew brighter. Then maybe. You are the one, Ray blinked. The one? In our last temple, the elders spoke of a bond. A light in the dark. A heart not born of stars, but stronger than the stars themselves. I thought it was a lie. A story. But now. Zara reached out and touched Ray's chest gently right over his heart. Ray froze. Her touch was warm now. Not cold like before. I don't want to fade, she whispered. You won't, Ray promised. But deep inside he wondered, how much time did she have? Just then, alarms on Ray's scanner started to blink. Motion detected. Ray stood up and ran to the screen. 3 fast-moving heat signals. Not animals, not local patrols. Too fast, too smooth. Zara's eyes widened. They found me. Who? Ray asked. She didn't answer, but he could see the fear in her. Get up, Ray said. We need to move. No, not yet. I'm too weak to travel far. We need to hide. Ray opened a hidden panel in the floor. A small underground tunnel. It led to a hidden cave not far away. Can you walk? He asked. Zara nodded. Ray helped her down into the dark tunnel. Before he closed the hatch, he looked back at the desert. 3 shadows were moving toward the shelter. One of them raised. Something glowing. Ray shut the hatch and ran into the darkness. With Zara by his side, they had only just met. But something powerful had started between them. A spark. A connection. One that could change the future. If they survived the night. The fire in the sky had no sound, but Zara felt it. Deep in her bones. Her heart. Her blood. She opened her glowing eyes inside the cool cave and whispered just 2 words. They're here. Ray was checking a small power cell in the wall, trying to boost the emergency signal jammer he built years ago. He turned toward her. How do you know? I feel them, Zara said quietly. They're made from cold metal. But they smell like death. Ray didn't understand what that meant, but the fear in her voice was real. He moved fast. The cave wasn't big, just a narrow crack in the side of the mountain with some old supply crates, dried water packs, and a portable shield projector. He had used this place once while mapping the area. Never thought he'd hide here with an alien girl hunted by death machines. Zara was sitting on a stone bench, her body still weak, but the glow in her veins was pulsing brighter now. I need to tell you, she said, voice trembling. What's chasing us? Ray paused. They're called the Dravox Reclaimers. They believe my kind should never have left the breeding cages on our homeworld. We escaped, made new lives. We built art, music, gardens that could float in the sky. But they followed. And when we wouldn't return, they started collecting. U.S. collecting? Ray's stomach turned. For experiments, trade, pleasure, we became rare, priceless. Her hands tightened. We became prey. Ray clenched his jaw. You're not a thing to collect. Zara looked down. To them, I'm the last golden seed. The one that can bring a new generation of slaves. Ray turned toward the entrance. The scanner beeped again. Motion 50 meters. multiple signals. Getting closer, he grabbed his laser cutter and old mining blaster. If they come near you, they'll regret it. Zara tried to stand, but her legs trembled. No, Ray said gently. You're too weak. Let me protect you. She looked at him. Why? Ray didn't answer. He just smiled a little. Because I don't walk away. Suddenly, a sharp, shrieking sound echoed through the desert sky. Ray looked up above the cave entrance. The rocks were glowing red. Then dash boom, an explosion rocked the cave. Dust and rocks rained from the ceiling. Zara covered her ears, crying. Out. Ray rushed to her, shielding her with his body. When the dust cleared, 3 figures stood at the cave entrance. Tall, armored, not quite human. Their eyes glowed red. One had long, sharp limbs like blades. Another had a helmet filled with shifting smoke. The third, the leader, held a staff with a living crystal that screamed softly. Ray raised his weapon. The leader spoke in a deep, cold voice. Move aside, human. That creature belongs to us. Ray didn't move. She's not a creature. She has a name. Her name is Zara. The leader tilted his head. You bonded with her? I protected her. That is unfortunate. Ray aimed. Try me. But the leader didn't attack. Instead, he looked at Zara. You know the law of your blood. If you bond with an outsider, your power becomes unstable. You will fade with him. Zara's face grew pale. You lie. No, the leader said. I offer mercy. Come willingly, and we will restore your strength. Let the human live. Resist and both of you will die. Ray looked at Zahra. She was breathing hard, shaking. But then, she stood. Her glow grew stronger, bright, golden lines racing over her skin. Her voice rang clear. I'd rather fade in his arms than rot in your cages. The crystal in the leader's staff screamed louder. Then you die together. The hunters stepped forward. Ray fired first blast of plasma, hitting the cave wall. As they dodged, Zahra raised her hands. Light burst out, knocking one of the hunters back, but her knees buckled. She was still too weak. Ray jumped in front of her, blocking the incoming strike. Everything turned into light, fire, and screams. When it was over, Ray lay bleeding. The hunters were gone, but only for now. Zara crawled to his side, hands glowing softly as she pressed against his wound. You stayed, she whispered. Ray smiled faintly. Still here. She closed her eyes, whispering ancient words. And for the first time, Ray felt something move inside his chest. A light, warm, ancient, alive. Something between them had awakened. Something the hunters feared. Before the war came, her people used to sing here. Now the temple was buried beneath sand, forgotten by stars. And only one being still knew how to find it, Zara. She stood weakly under the orange sky, her silver hair blowing in the wind, eyes locked on the cliff face. Her fingers moved in a strange pattern, drawing glowing symbols in the air. Ray watched silently, still sore from the battle. His arm was wrapped in bandages, but he said nothing. He had followed Zara without question. They had walked for hours, through the canyon until they reached a wall of stone with no doors and no path. But then the symbols pulsed. A sound came, a deep hum, like a forgotten song rising from the earth, and the cliff cracked open. A golden light spilled out, dust lifting into the air like dancing fireflies. Zara turned to Ray. This is the last place they didn't touch. Ray nodded and followed her in. Inside, the air was cool, silent, sacred. The tunnel opened into a wide chamber, shaped like a star. The walls glowed with alien writing, smooth lines and soft curves, like poetry carved into stone. Floating in the center was a crystal sphere, pulsing slowly. Around it, 6 empty pods stood like flower petals frozen in time. Zara touched the sphere. Her body pulsed in response. This is where we were created, she whispered. The first mothers of our kind walked here. The bond chambers were meant for love, for trust, For true joining of spirit and soul. Ray looked around. And now? There. Empty, she said, voice breaking. All except one. Ray approached one of the pods. Inside, glowing shapes floated like tiny stars. Memories? Zara nodded. They remember what we forget. Our songs, our fears, even our last prayers. Ray reached toward the pod. Images flashed in his mind, a city of light, alien children laughing in gardens. Then screams, fire, cages. A woman crying, holding a small glowing baby. Zahra. He pulled his hand back. Zara stood still, looking at the pods. I wasn't supposed to survive, she said. They burned my home, took my sisters. I ran with my mother's heartstone. I buried it in this cave, hoping one day I could return. Ray's voice was soft. This is your home. She looked at him. It was, but now it's just memory. Ray stepped closer. Why did you bring me here? She walked to the center of the room, standing under the crystal sphere. Because if I fade, she said, I want it to be where it all began. No, Ray said, his voice sharp. You're not fading. Zara smiled sadly. The bond wasn't complete. I'm still weak. My glow is thinning. Even this place won't hold me long. He stepped forward. Then tell me how to help. Tell me how to finish the bond. Zara looked into his eyes. It's not just a touch, not just blood or heat. It's trust. Connection. You must share your truth. Ray hesitated. His hands curled into fists. Zahra stepped closer. Who did you lose, Ray? His face turned hard. Everyone. She waited. Ray finally spoke. I was a repair tech on a colony ship. Pirates attacked. I was the only one who got to the escape pod. I woke up alone on this world. I never stopped blaming myself. Zara gently placed her glowing hand over his heart. Now, I know why you didn't walk away. Their eyes met. The crystal sphere pulsed faster. Then the floor shook. A sharp beep echoed from Ray's scanner. Incoming energy spike. Zahra gasped. They followed us. No one else knows this place, Ray said. But the chamber was already dimming. The memory pods flickered. Zara's glow faded. She fell to her knees. Ray caught her just in time. They found me. Through the bond, she whispered. My soul is open. That's how they see me. Ray looked around. Then we break their sight. He looked up at the sphere, glowing brighter now. What happens if I enter it? He asked. Zara's eyes widened. You might not survive. Ray lifted her up gently. Better I burn here than let you fade alone. He stepped into the light. For one moment, everything went silent. Then the chamber exploded with golden energy. Zara's body lifted, her glow returning stronger than ever. Ray stood inside the sphere, his heart and hers beating together. Somewhere far above, in the orbit of the dead moons. The reclaimers paused. The signal was gone. The girl was gone, but something new had been born. His heartbeat was no longer his own. It echoed like thunder through the chamber of light, one beat followed by another. Ray stood inside the glowing sphere, eyes wide, breath sharp. But he wasn't scared. He felt everything. Zara's memories, her joys, her pain, her loneliness. And underneath it all, one thought. She chose him. Outside the sphere, Zara hovered in the air, wrapped in soft golden light. Her body no longer trembled. Her hair flowed like silver fire. And her voice came not from her lips, but from inside his mind. I see you now, Ray, truly. He stepped forward, and the light slowly faded around them. The star-shaped chamber was quiet again. The crystal had dimmed, but something inside them had changed. Ray placed a hand over his chest. I feel different. Zara landed gently on the stone floor, eyes glowing warm. You opened your soul. You allowed me in. Now we are bound. Ray looked into her eyes. Are you okay? She smiled a full living smile. I am not fading anymore. They sat beside one of the memory pods, both silent for a while. Then Zara said, "In my culture, this bond, it was sacred. We never forced it. We never begged for it." Ray lowered his head. "And yet, you had to." Zara nodded slowly. "Because I was alone, afraid, and I didn't want to vanish." He reached over and gently held her hand. "You're not alone anymore." Suddenly, the warmth in the air vanished. Zara stood up fast, eyes scanning the chamber. "Something's wrong." Ray pulled out his scanner. The screen blinked red. "Signal breach. They've locked onto your heart signature." Zara gasped. "It's because of the bond." "It made me stronger, but also louder." Ray looked at her. "So they know exactly where we are." Zara nodded. "They're coming. And this time, not just to take me. They'll kill you too." Ray tightened his grip on his gear. "Then we make a stand." "No," Zara said. "We can't fight them here. This place is sacred. If it's destroyed, my people's last memory will die." Ray looked around at the carvings, the floating lights, the pods still whispering ancient songs. "You know a way out?" he asked. She walked toward the back wall and touched a smooth symbol. The wall melted away like mist, revealing a narrow spiral path going deep underground. Zara looked back. "This leads to the old Blood River caverns. No one alive remembers them, except me." Ray followed her into the tunnel, sealing the door behind them. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Faint red crystals glowed along the walls. The sound of dripping water echoed softly. At one point, Ray touched the wall and it pulsed like a living thing. "This place is alive," he whispered. Zara nodded. "It remembers every footstep, every scream, every vow." Ray glanced at her. "What are we going to do, run forever?" Zara didn't answer at first. Then she stopped and placed his hand on her chest. "Feel it." Ray closed his eyes. 2 heartbeats. One rhythm. She opened her eyes. "The bond is not just a lifeline, it's a weapon. If completed, we can shield each other. Hide from them, or even fight." "But I thought we already bonded?" "Only half," Zara whispered. "I opened my soul to you. But for it to complete, you must do the same." Ray looked into her glowing eyes. "I thought I already had." She smiled. "Then let your heart speak it." He took a deep breath. "I was ready to die in that cave, Zara. I didn't care. But when I saw you, weak, scared, begging for help, I finally felt alive again. You didn't need a soldier. You needed someone who saw you. And I did." The crystals around them pulsed brighter. Zara stepped closer. Eyes filled with warmth. Their foreheads touched. Boom. A wave of light exploded outward, rushing through the caves, silencing every sensor and blinding every hunter signal locked onto her. Far above, the reclaimer's ship blinked in confusion. Target lost. Back in the cave, Ray and Zara opened their eyes. She was glowing brighter than ever. Her hands lit with energy, her body steady, full of power. And Ray, his heart was glowing now too. "Faint, but steady. You've completed it," Zara said. Softly, "What happens now?" Ray asked. Her eyes narrowed as she turned toward the tunnel's end. "Now, we fight back." The cave was quiet. Too quiet. Ray's fingers tightened around the blaster. Zara stood behind him, her glow dimmed slightly to avoid detection. But even in the shadows, her eyes burned bright. She whispered, "They're close." Ray nodded without turning. He could feel it too, like the air had gone heavy, poisoned with danger. Every breath tasted like metal. Then he heard it. A soft scraping sound, not from boots, but from claws. Ray moved forward, slow and silent, deeper into the Blood River caverns. The narrow path opened into a wide chamber with giant crystal roots growing from the walls, glowing faint red. Zara pointed to the left. "That tunnel leads out, but it's guarded." "How many?" 3, maybe more. I can't sense clearly anymore. They're using masks. Ray's jaw clenched. Then we removed their masks. Suddenly, a low hiss echoed through the chamber, then dash clang. Metal slammed against stone. From above, a dark shape dropped. A Dravox hunter, covered in black armor. Glowing red eyes staring like a beast. Ray didn't hesitate. Bang! The blaster lit up, burning a hole through the creature's arm. It screeched, swinging a blade toward Ray's head. Ray ducked, rolled, fired again, this time to the chest. Hunter fell. Ray stood, breathing hard. 1 down. But it wasn't over. 2 more leapt from the shadows, one of them using a net of energy, aimed at Zara. She raised her hand, creating a flash of golden light that melted the net in the air. Ray turned, protecting her back. You. Okay? Zara didn't answer with words. She lifted both arms, and the ground beneath the hunters cracked. Light poured from her hands, throwing the creatures against the wall. But even that didn't stop them for long. They're adapting, she gasped. Their armor is feeding on my energy. Ray pushed her gently behind a crystal pillar. Then, let me handle it. She looked at him, fear in her voice. You'll die, he smiled. Then let them try. Ray stepped into the open chamber, alone now. His blaster was almost drained. His arm still hurt from the cave battle. But he stood tall, facing the last 2 hunters. They stared at him. One of them tilted its head. You are not bonded fully. You are still weak. Why do you protect the fading one? Ray's voice was calm but firm. Because she's not fading anymore. He pointed the blaster. I gave her my heart. You can't take it. The taller hunter hissed. You are only human, Ray grinned. That's enough. The hunter charged. Ray fired, missed. The creature was too fast. It slashed across Ray's chest. Sparks flying as his armor broke. Ray fell to one knee. Blood dripped from his side. The hunter raised its blade. But then, a beam of pure gold shot from the cave wall, hitting the hunter mid-strike. Zara stood tall now, her body burning like a living star. Her voice echoed through the chamber. You will not touch him again. She stepped forward, her feet lifting from the ground. Her glow blinded the hunters. I was afraid, she said. I begged, I ran. She looked at Ray, but not anymore. The air shook. The remaining hunters tried to run, but the walls closed. Around them, Zara raised her hands. A final wave of energy burst outward. Boom, when the light faded. The chamber was silent. Only Ray remained, lying still on the ground. Zara ran to him, dropping to her knees. Ray, please, stay with me. His eyes opened slowly. Still here, he whispered. She let out a soft laugh, her tears glowing like liquid starlight. You did it, he said. You stood alone. She shook her head. No, you stood alone, Ray smiled. Then maybe. Together, we're more than enough. Above, in the orbiting reclaimer ship, alarms were going wild. Their last hunters were gone. Their signal was shattered. Inside the command room, the captain hissed. 1 human. And 1 fading girl just broke centuries of control. He slammed his fist into the console. This isn't over. But deep below, in the ancient veins of the planet, 2 hearts now beat as one. The girl who begged, and the man who stayed. The war was not over. But hope had just been reborn. The sun rose without warning. Not slowly, not gently, but like a fire bursting from the edge of the world, golden. Wild, alive, Zara opened her eyes to it. She stood at the edge of a tall cliff, wind blowing through her silver hair, her skin warm, with soft light. For the first time since her people were hunted, she didn't feel fear. She felt free. Behind her, Ray sat on a smooth rock, watching her in silence. His wounds were healing. His armor was cracked, dirty, but he wore it like a badge of honor. A quiet strength. Zara turned slowly, her eyes glowing faint blue. I never thought I'd see the dawn again, Ray smiled. It suits you. They were far from the cave now, deep in the southern mountains, where no signal could reach them and no hunter dared follow. The reclaimer's ship had gone silent, retreated for now, perhaps planning revenge, but Zara no longer cared that she had survived, not just in body but in soul. She walked to Ray and sat beside him. Do you regret it? She asked, helping. Me? Ray looked out at the rising sun. No, he turned to her. I regret the years I wasted being afraid, of living, of feeling. He took her hand. You gave that back to me. Zara smiled, and the crystals in her skin pulsed warmly. They sat like that for a long time, just holding hands as the sky turned from gold to blue. Later, they began building a shelter together, simple, quiet, hidden between stone ridges. A new place, not his home. Not hers. Theirs. Zahra touched the dry earth, and small green lights bloomed under her fingers. A vine grew, a flower opened, humming softly. Ray stared. You're doing that again. My strength is returning, she said softly. Because you didn't walk away. She looked at him, her voice low. You didn't run when I asked something terrible. Ray shook his head. You didn't ask something terrible. She blinked. I begged you to breed with me. You asked not to die alone, he corrected. Zara fell quiet. Then she said, that's not why I want to bond anymore. Ray raised an eyebrow. No, she leaned closer. Now I want to bond because I love the human who fought for me and held my hand while I was breaking. Ray laughed. Well, that's a much better reason. Their foreheads touched. The bond shimmered between them like a golden thread. No longer out of desperation, but out of choice. As night came again, they lit a small fire. Above, the stars were brighter than ever. Zara looked up and pointed. My world was there, she whispered, before it burned. Ray looked at the stars. It doesn't have to stay gone, he said. We can build again. With what? She asked, not sad, just tired. Ray took her hand and placed it over his chest. With us. Zara closed her eyes. Then let it begin here. Far above the planet, in the cold silence of space, the reclaimer captain stood before his dark mirror. He watched the lights below fade from his screen. She lives, he growled. And now, she's not alone. Another voice whispered from the shadows. Then they've already won. Back on the mountain, the wind carried the scent of wildflowers. Zara stood barefoot in the grass, her eyes glowing with peace. Ray walked up behind her. You look different. I feel different, she said. Stronger, softer, whole. She turned to him. You gave me back something I thought was lost forever. Ray smiled. What? Zara reached out and touched his chest. Hope. And as the stars watched quietly from above, the last of her kind became the first of something new. She was no longer a fading girl in the dark. She was fire. She was love. She was life. And in her eyes was a new dawn.